Sure, my name is Sergeant Richard Rodriguez. I'm the supervisor for the Houston Police Department Homicide Division Cold Case Unit.
My name is Salam Zia, I'm captain of the homicide division.
Alright, so at this point, do you have any idea who killed Joann Zamora, any suspects?
No, at this point, no, we don't, not right now. Right now, obviously the biggest obstacle was getting her identified. Now that we've done that, the first thing that we're gonna do is create what we call a victimology. So we need to know who she is, know a little bit about what she was doing, when she was doing it, who she was doing it with, what associations she had, friends, families, and things like that. So that's one of the biggest things we have to do right now in order to try to rebuild her life as far as what she was doing back then.
Her daughter mentioned a boyfriend at the time that she had. Any indication that you're looking into him?
Right now, everybody's a suspect, nobody's a suspect, so until we find more information about her, what she was doing, who she was doing it with, that's really the big thing right now. So, definitely her relationships are one of the big things. Obviously, one thing that does stand out, at least for me, is the fact that there wasn't a missing persons report put out on her. So that to me is very suspicious, so we have to look at her relationships that she had at the time.
When did this become a murder investigation or a cold case investigation?
Well, it was a murder investigation back when she was discovered in 1992.
And what was her cause and manner of death?
It was a homicide. It was ruled a homicide.
And how did she die?
Blunt force trauma.
Is there any murder weapon nearby?
No, nothing like that. The only thing that we found back then was her body. She was in a decomposed state. So when victims are found like that in a decomposed state, DNA is kind of hard to get because the victim's DNA pretty much consumes any physical evidence that's on the body itself.
Where was the blunt force trauma?
I'm not gonna say specifically where it was at.
Would you describe it as a brutal death?
Based on the autopsy report, it was not fun, I can tell you that much. It was definitely very painful.
Was she clothed, and do you have?
She was clothed, but given the climate here in Houston, a body that can decompose rather quickly. I'm not gonna say she was skeletonized, because she wasn't. If that were the case, we're looking at probably at least a year. So I would say probably at several months that she was out in this field.
And could you describe where she was found? Was it, we heard woods, kind of open area?
It was
behind a building?
Right. No, there's no buildings in this particular field.
Mm-hmm.
It was across the street from a residential area. Where she was actually found, it was a, I wouldn't describe it as a wooded area per se, but definitely an overgrown area with tall grass, high weeds, things like that. Nothing that you could see off the street offhand. You would have to be in the field itself to actually find her.
And is that still the state of the location today?
No, actually, I believe there's and I just Googled it the other day, I believe there's a church out there.
Okay.
Do you know the cross streets?
It was 500 block of West Rittenhouse, and I believe the next cross street is Student or Airline. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Why she was never reported missing?
Well, that's the $1 million question right there. Like I said, that kind of leads me to believe that who was with her maybe did something and didn't want anybody to know.
What about the person that found her? Have y'all reconnected with that person?
That's somebody that we're going to re-interview. He was interviewed extensively back then. Basically, he was just a neighbor, lived across the street from the field, and he would just walk the neighborhood, and he just happened to go across. Well, I wouldn't say happened. According to him, he would walk that area on a semi-regular basis, just looking for different items, because according to him, that was an area where people would dump stuff. So he would just go rummaging through things, maybe find something interesting, and that particular day, he found her.
Was anything suspicious going on in her life leading up to her being found?
Well, again, that's something that we're looking into right now. I don't want to jump to any conclusions at this moment, given that we're still early on in it. We definitely need to talk to more family members. We need to talk to her children and try to establish what kind of relationships, personal relationships she had at that time. So that's what we're looking at right now.
Can you recap for us? I mean, it's been literally 33 years since her body was found. What are some of the big obstacles over 3 decades, for you guys to get movement on the case?
Well, one of those things, in every cold case, time Well, time, it's a double-edged sword, I'll put it like that. In some ways it helps us, other ways it hurts us. Some of the ways it helps us is with the advancement in technology. Now, obviously, I'm talking about DNA here, but in this particular case, DNA is not gonna help us. Now, another way time can help us is that in cold cases, sometimes you have relationships that were solid back then, but then as time moves on, they break up. They were faithful back then, they were, you know, ride or die type people. I got your back, I'm not gonna tell on you, but once the relationship splits, then all of a sudden, ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, ex-wife, ex-husband, hey, you know what, HPD, I have something to tell you now. Let me tell you about him or her back then. So, one of the things I always tell my guys when I get new guys, I say, look, one of the things you have to look at are relationships, because when they break up, now people have stories to tell. And I'm kind of hoping this is, you know, we have that here, but we'll see.
Do you even know that boyfriend's name that she had, or if he's still alive?
Well, if I did, I wouldn't tell you.
Have you
Fair
been
enough.
able to talk to her children yet, or? any
No,
family
the
members?
children, not yet. We've talked to two of her sisters, and based on what the sisters have told us, that's where we're getting most of our information from right now, to springboard onto other people of interest.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone?
I just have one more question. And I mean, did she have a lifestyle that would have led to people not reporting her missing?
Well,
Family
yes,
members?
yes, she did. I'm not gonna say that she was a saint. I mean, you can look up her criminal history and you can go from there. But I'm not gonna use that against her. You know, just because you have a certain lifestyle doesn't mean you need to end up this way.
And can you just talk about the advancements in technology, you know, Moxie getting involved and able to help identify her? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of other Jane Does out there that are buried in that cemetery. Is that something that y'all are kind of making, you know, wanting to find out more about, you know, with this advancement?
Sure, I mean, specifically what you're talking about is genetic genealogy, correct? FIG. That's what most people call it, FIG or FGG. I think that's an awesome technology, that's an awesome tool. Now, that's something that's probably better used in unidentified persons or cold cases, and the reason I say that is this. With fresh cases, that's not gonna be the first thing you're gonna look into. Fresh cases, you're still gonna go with your standard DNA testing, getting an STR profile, your cell phone, video, witnesses and stuff like that. But in cold cases, all that stuff has already been done. Everything that could be done is typically already done. Now, we go back and look at what advances have been made in DNA and what we can do now that wasn't done back then. Genetic genealogy is definitely one of those things. One of the things that's a big inhibitor for HPD, it's extremely expensive. Any new technology, I believe we all know, is gonna cost a lot of money in the very beginning. So that's why we do have organizations like that. And to be quite honest with you, I've never heard of that organization, but I know there's groups out there that to fund the money for testing like this. We are using that. When I say we, the cold case unit is, but the only reason we can use that technology is we have a few grants from the BJA. So we are using it for some cases. Also, we partnered up with UNT, the University of North Texas. They are doing some of our identifications as well, along with partnership with the Houston or Harris County Institute of Forensic Science, the ME's office. They're obviously the main ones to get identifications on bodies, but we send stuff over to UNT as well to help us identify unknowns. So I think it's a great technology, but it's not going to be the first thing that we use on cases right now. Because
Is there any chance that the detectives who worked the original case are still at HPD?
No, they're not.
How many cold cases do you have?
Cold cases that are assigned to cold cases or unsolved cases, because those are two different numbers.
Assigned cold cases.
We have a very large number of unsolved cases. Now, to be fair, that's going all the way back to the 1930s. So a large portion of those we're never going to investigate because, to be quite honest with you, everybody that was probably involved in those cases are dead. You know, based on my experience since I've been in the cold case unit, the 1970s is probably as far back as we can go to find witnesses and reconnect with family. That's about as far back as we can go. Based on what I've been doing since I've been there, I think the 1980s to present is probably the best time to start, because in the 80s, that's when law enforcement started changing the way they collected evidence, the way they stored evidence, and the way they preserved evidence. So that would give us the best bang for our buck when it comes to conducting DNA testing and things like that. I'm sorry, guys.
And the other thing I want to bring up is, as it relates to FGG, I think it's important that anytime we try to bring some sort of resolution to a case, right, and pursue justice for the victims, whatever technology that we use, whatever investigative practices that we use, it needs to withstand the scrutiny of the prosecutor's review and the court. If it doesn't meet that standard, we're not really getting justice for our victims. So there's a multitude of factors that we look at, but that's a very important one that I think we always have to keep at the forefront of our consideration.
So when this happens, is this good? You know, there's an announcement that somebody's been identified, or do y'all get flooded with calls about, can my person, you know, can something happen with this case or that case?
Well, I can clearly answer that question. We've been getting that, and part of that is all the crime shows that you see. You know, everybody watches these crime shows, and you know, they see these things being solved within an hour. And I'll be honest, I don't really watch any of these shows, but I know of some of them. The technology that they talk about in these shows, is it stuff that we use? Yeah. Is it reality? No. Unfortunately, it isn't. You know, what people have to understand, DNA is not, and if we're specifically talking about DNA testing and FGG, DNA is not always present in every single crime. That's number one. Number two, if there is DNA, do we have enough of it to do the testing? Now you have to understand, we have the traditional STR testing that goes up in the CODIS. Now we have this new technology with genetic genealogy, FIG, which you gotta get a SNP profile. That's a different type, those are two different types of testing. So when we process evidence for DNA, we have to get the STR profile first. That's the gold standard. This is the one that's going to court. The SNP profile for FIG, or genetic genealogy, that is not going to court, at least not right now. That is basically only considered a lead. So they point us in the right direction, they point us to an individual, but we still have to get that STR profile to compare it over here. So that's why, you know, I think it's a great technology. I think in the future, it's gonna be probably in the forefront depending upon the case. But right now, it's just another tool to give us a lead and to point out who our suspect may be.